The first step in creating an animated sequence is to set up the time configuration. And that's found in this button in the lower right-hand corner here, right next to the time controls. You'll see time configuration. It looks like a little dialog box with a clock on it. Click on time configuration, and you can choose your frame rate. It's defaulted to 30 frames per second, or NTSC, and that's the acronym for the old school analog television in the United States. If you choose PAL, that's 25 frames per second, but ironically, this doesn't change here. So it still says 30, but when you choose PAL, you're actually working in 25 frames per second. If you choose film, it's going to be 24 frames per second. Or if you choose custom, then you can type it in directly here. So this is just a bit odd that this number doesn't change, but just keep in mind NTSC is 30, PAL, the European television standard, is 25, and film is the US film standard, which is 24 frames per second. I'm actually going to leave it at NTSC 30 frames per second. Over here, we can choose to display frames. We can also display time in SMPTE timecode format if we want. So that's going to show us seconds and frames. I'm actually, once again, just going to leave it at frames. And then finally, we can set the length of our current timeline. This isn't permanent. We can always come back in here and change this. For now, I'm going to set my timeline to be 5 seconds long. And if we're running at 30 frames per second, 30 times 5 is 150. So I'll set the end time here to 150 frames. And if I press the Tab key, these all update. And this tells us that the length is 150 frames, and the frame count is 151 because frame 0 is counted. All right, so there we go. Click OK. And now we've got 150 frames in our timeline, and we're running at the default 30 frames per second.